Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the first ever podcast episode for Bowhunters of Wyoming. My name is Alex Bakken, and I currently serve as the Vice President of Bowhunters of Wyoming. And one of the new things we are bringing to the table here in 2025 is a podcast. So first and foremost, for those who don't know, I would like to give a real brief introduction to Bowhunters of Wyoming, what it is, what we're about, what we provide, and how long we've been around. So Bowhunters of Wyoming is a nonprofit organization. We're a 501c7 social club. We were formed in 1974 by bow hunters who wanted to make sure that the great sport of bow hunting not only survives, but flourishes and maintains sustainability in the great state of Wyoming. Fast forward to the present time, we are still providing our members with the same efforts to promote and preserve bow hunting, and we're always exploring opportunities to do more. So Bowhunters of Wyoming is managed by an executive council. That executive council consists of the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, newsletter editor, and 7 area representatives. Additionally, we have numerous volunteers that serve as committee chairs. They keep us updated on legislative efforts, membership, and of course our annual convention. There's a lot more information on bowhuntersofwyoming.org. And our next episode, we will have one of the pivotal founding members of Bowhunters of Wyoming on board. So I don't want to get too far into that. I want to save a lot for her because she will be able to tell you about the history and origins of Bowhunters of Wyoming much better than I can. So what exactly does Bowhunters of Wyoming do? So as stated before, we are a nonprofit organization, and we do have the mission statement, so to speak, to promote the enjoyment and betterment of the sport of bow hunting. And how we do that is varied. We have several different mechanisms we use as an organization to promote bow hunting, to promote sound wildlife conservation efforts, and to increase and sustain bow hunting opportunity in our state. So one of the things we do is we issue a quarterly magazine, Bowhunters of Wyoming, 4 issues per year. This covers member stories, important legislative updates, different developments in the outdoor and recreation community, and just things that we as bow hunters probably should be aware of, especially in our home state of Wyoming. One of the other things we do, and we've been very busy with it lately, as it is the legislative session, is pay attention to the bills that are being proposed and to keep our membership in the loop as far as which ones might have an effect on bow hunting in Wyoming. Some of the big ones that we've been looking at right now include Senate File 0118. This was the transferable landowner tags. Bowhunters of Wyoming worked very hard with numerous other organizations to successfully get this bill tabled. We reached out to our members and we worked collaboratively with other like-minded organizations, and thankfully we were able to get this tabled for the time being. Another bill we've been looking at, and I'm sure a lot of our members have heard of, is House Bill 286. That is the unlimited mountain lion tags, the removal of the mountain lion quota. And what Bowhunters of Wyoming does when these bills come is we have a member who's part of our executive council who essentially keeps track of and speaks on these bills on behalf of Bowhunters of Wyoming. Now, what we do as an executive council is we'll get together, we'll discuss these bills, and we'll come to a consensus whether we want to support, whether we want to advocate against, or whether it's just too split and there's no consensus. So, for example, House Bill 286 and Senate File 0118, we were able to reach a consensus as an executive council to speak out against the passing of these bills. And luckily, as I stated before, SF 0118 has been tabled, but there's still several other bills that we're keeping an eye on, but that's just one small example of what we as bow hunters of Wyoming do. Some of the other things we've been working on this year includes working with the Nature Conservancy in Wyoming, signing on with other organizations such as the Wyoming Stock Growers Association, the Wyoming Wild Sheep Foundation, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, working to preserve and allocate some funding to help mitigate the cheatgrass epidemic that we tend to see throughout the state. So in addition to the legislative stuff, we do jump on different movements that further sound wildlife management in Wyoming, and in doing so increases our bow hunting opportunities. We also have a yearly convention. Every year we get together. We host a large-scale convention. This year's is going to be in Cheyenne. It's going to be March 21st and March 22nd at the Red Lion. These conventions, they provide a good opportunity for members, sponsors, supporters to come together and celebrate our shared commitment to bow hunting and wildlife conservation. So the banquet will have a silent auction, guest speakers, and an opportunity to connect, with fellow bow hunters from across the state. Wow, we would love to see all our members attend. Bring your friends, bring your family. And the funds raised at these events, they're what support bow hunters of Wyoming. So whether it's the magazine, the podcast, the conservation initiatives, the youth outreach programs, our committee work, helping with some of our funding requests, which we'll get into a little later. This is where those funds come from. So touching briefly on the funding request, one of the other things that Bow Hunters of Wyoming does is we help fund different projects throughout the state. So we'll typically get anywhere from 10 to 12 funding requests throughout a year, and as an executive council or as a membership at large, we go through and we choose which ones to help support. For example, some of the things we've done in the past have been supporting fence removal with the Wyoming Wildlife Federation. There was a snowy range moose post-wildfire monitoring we helped fund with Game and Fish, and some youth outreach efforts, some hunter mentorship programs, specifically with archery. We try to stay very involved with the community, especially when it comes to bow hunting, hence the name. So that's enough about kind of a brief overview of Bow Hunters of Wyoming. I don't want to get too far into it without having our next guest, Susan Barrett, hop on. She's going to be able to paint a much better picture than I am, but I did wanted to give you a brief overview, of what we do and how we do it. As far as the membership goes, we offer individual memberships, family, lifetime, and each membership will receive your 4 issues per year. Lifetime membership has a very nice jacket that comes with it. And then we keep you in the loop on everything that's going on, whether it's our legislative initiatives, bills to keep an eye on, or our committee work. We make sure that all our members are kept in the loop and kept aware, and we're always looking for feedback. We had a Type 9 committee meeting in Casper late last month that I was able to attend with several other members, and the outpouring of phone calls we got afterwards was awesome. Helps increase our awareness. It helps increase the public's awareness of what we're working on. And overall, I think it was a good move for bow hunters. A big thank you to everyone who managed to come out for that. So one of the things that we provide as Bow Hunters of Wyoming is we have area reps throughout the state. So each game and fish area has a rep assigned from Bow Hunters of Wyoming. So we have reps from Area 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Right now our Area 1 rep is vacant. But what these area reps do in each newsletter, they give a brief overview on what's happening over in their neck of the woods, whether there's a new license allocation, whether there's a new Type 9 movement, or something as simple as how is the moisture level? How are the herds doing? Was there a big winter kill? That way we can all, as bow hunters, collectively share our knowledge of what's going on in the state, put it in one place, and have it an easily consumable media for bow hunters throughout the state. So if you are a member and you are interested in representing our Area 1, please get a hold of us. That would be excellent. So moving on, one of the questions we got was when the podcast was first introduced was why a podcast? Why is Bowhunters of Wyoming looking at a podcast? One of our last executive council meetings, we were talking about membership, and we were talking about a membership drive or how to procure more members. And one of the things we brought up was, let's provide a better product, or let's provide a more comprehensive media outlet for people and make them want to be a member. And we felt that making a podcast was a great way to do that. Someone who does a lot of studies said that a lot of people listen to podcasts, and we think that's very true. So we found podcasts to be a pretty easy medium to disseminate a lot of data, a lot of topic awareness, and in addition to being able to share updates with our members, whether it's from legislative developments or our committee discussions or game and fish meetings, a podcast is a really good opportunity to provide a chance for some of our members to hop on and talk about memorable hunts, talk about trips, talk about tech tips. We've got a really, really strong core membership group of some bow hunters who have done some truly amazing things in the industry, and giving them a chance to get on and talk about some of these hunts and some of these shoots. I'm really looking forward to it, and I really think that a lot of our members are going to enjoy some of these talks and some of these stories. So moving on a little bit, just so you, the listener, have an idea of who I am. Like I said earlier, my name's Alex Baca, and I'm currently the vice president here at Bowhunters of Wyoming. I'm originally from Minnesota, so please don't hold that against me. I've been in Wyoming for 12 years now. Like I said, I was born and raised in northern Minnesota. Actually, it was a great place to grow up. A lot of walleye fishing, a lot of whitetail hunting, a lot of ice fishing. But one thing Minnesota does not have is elk, and that just wasn't going to work for me. So when I graduated college, I went on a over-the-counter elk hunt to Colorado. Yeah, it was the first time I had ever been out west, and I was immediately hooked. I was 21 years old at the time. I came back from the hunting trip. I was working at a sheetrock mill at the time, and I told my family, I said, "Hey, I'm moving out west, just to let you guys know." And obviously they were a little surprised. We didn't have any family out here. I had never been to Wyoming. But as soon as I got back from that trip, I just started applying for jobs all over the West. So Montana, Idaho, Colorado, Wyoming. And the first job I got was at the Wyoming State Penitentiary, maximum security prison here just outside of Rawlins. So I took the job offer. I packed up everything I owned in a rented U-Haul trailer in a Ford F-150. I cashed out my bank account. I think I had about $1,200, and drove by my parents' house and said, "Hey, I'm moving to Wyoming. Just to let you guys know." And they said, "Oh, well, what are you going to do? Where are you going to live? Who do you know?" I said, "That's a great question. I do have a job as a prison guard. I don't know where I'm going to live yet. I've actually never been to Wyoming. I don't know anyone there, but I do know that elk tags are $52, and I'll figure the rest out." Because at the time, and still kind of today, that's what mattered. So drove out to Wyoming, started my job, lived in a hotel for a few days until I got that all figured out. And, 12 years later, it's been an absolutely amazing experience. I've been lucky enough to harvest quite a few elk, bear, antelope, deer. I now have a wife and 2 sons, and it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made. Despite the complete lack of planning that went into it, it's really paid off well. So I worked for a few years at the prison. I ended up transferring to the sheriff's office, and eventually I ran for sheriff, and now I serve as the elected sheriff of Carbon County, in addition to the vice president of Bowhunters of Wyoming. So from going, packing up a U-Haul trailer to hunt elk, to being the vice president of Bowhunters of Wyoming and having been able to harvest quite a few elk, it's been an amazing journey so far, and I'm very, very fortunate. So just a little bit about my hunting career, so to speak. There's a lot of people on social media, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, who talk a lot about hunting, but haven't really been successful. So just to establish, I guess, a little bit of credibility, so to speak, I just wanted to cover some of my hunting and some of my hunting trips. So I've been in Wyoming now for 12 years. And in that time, I've been lucky enough to harvest 12 elk with a bow, 11 bulls. I think 4 of those bulls have gone Pope and Young, and the vast majority have been public land over the counter. Not by choice, just because I don't have the greatest luck in drawing tags. But I do have a couple limited quota bulls in there that were just absolutely fantastic hunts and completely different from what I'm used to on the public land general hunt area of it. But if I had to pick one hunt, I think bow hunting elk is the thing for me. Not only is it something I love to do, but it's the entire reason that I'm even here in Wyoming in the first place. If I would have never gone on that archery elk hunt in Colorado, I'd probably still be back in Minnesota, chasing whitetail and fishing walleyes, which there's nothing wrong with that, but something special about bow hunting elk up in the mountains. In addition to that, I love to bow hunt bear, deer, antelope, just about everything I can, but I usually prioritize my season around elk. That's usually my first goal, that and bear, just because I run a bear bait that's pretty close to my usual elk camp. 2 years ago, I picked up the recurve, and in addition to being an extremely humbling journey, it was very rewarding. I was able to harvest a bear with that. So moving forward from here, I plan on incorporating the recurve a lot more into my hunting progression. But that's a little bit about me, where I'm from, what I love to do when I'm not hunting. I'm scouting, snowmobiling, or ice fishing. I'm a pretty limited dimensional human being. I have 3 or 4 hobbies that I tend to take to the extreme degree, and bow hunting is the first and foremost of those. So how I ended up as vice president of Bowhunters Wyoming was pretty anticlimactic, honestly. I had heard about Bowhunters of Wyoming on a podcast, and I decided to obviously become a member because, there's few things I'm as passionate about as bow hunting. And after a year or so of membership, I noticed a vacancy in the vice president role. I said, if no one ends up putting in for it, I'll go ahead and throw in a letter of interest because I'd hate to see it go unfilled. 2-3 weeks went by, no one else had applied, so I put in my letter of interest and said, I'd love to help out if you would have me. If no one else, that's better qualified puts in, I'd gladly help out. So here I am, and I feel it's only fitting for me to try and give back what I can to the sport and the state that have given me so much. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for bow hunting and if it wasn't for Wyoming. So whatever I could do to give back to that, that's the goal. So we look forward to really getting this podcast rolling, getting some different guests on here, and we hope you enjoy listening. If you have any ideas or topics you want discussed or some feedback for us, get a hold of us. You can find Bowhunters of Wyoming on Facebook and Instagram. You can get a hold of me directly at vicepresident@bowhuntersofwyoming.org. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram, and we're open to everything. We want to make sure that we create an organization that's focused on our members. Moving forward, that's what we plan to do with this podcast. We've got 5 or 6 episodes already lined up. We're really excited to get going with it, and we look forward to hearing from you guys. Thank you.